It's easy to watch videos on productivity or even self-development and believe that the presenter has got it all figured out and that everything they do is perfect every day. The truth is, that's complete rubbish. Nobody has it figured out. Nobody is ever perfect.
Do you know what's wrong with you?
No, what?
Nothing.
You may have heard that Tim Cook gets up at 3:30 every morning, has a cup of coffee, checks his email, and then goes to the gym. Every day. Complete rubbish. Now, for the most part, Tim Cook may indeed wake up at 3:30 in the morning. He may also go through his email, and he may go to the gym on most days. But let's be honest, Tim Cook travels. He lives in California, but often he's in China, he's in the UK, he's often in Washington. It's not possible for him to religiously follow that routine every single day, 7 days a week. I also hear that Satya Nadella wakes up and goes out running at 7 a.m. every day. No, he does not. Now, again, most days he might do, but some days he's going to be traveling, some days he may have to get to the office early, some days he may have a late meeting and get home late. Life gets in the way of us being consistent every single day. It's just not humanly possible. You are not a machine. Now, one common question or comment I get about doing the weekly planning matrix or any kind of weekly planning is, well, there's no point, because as soon as you do the plan, you arrive at work on Monday morning and everything gets thrown out of sync. Well, of course it does. There are a lot of things that we just have zero control over, and events are going to get in the way. It's very much like the former British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan when asked what are the biggest challenges for you as a politician, and he just looked at him with a smile on his face and said, "Events, dear boy, events." Events get in the way. It's not possible to be able to follow through precisely what your weekly plan is. But what you can do is take a lesson from the British SAS. The British Special Forces, when coming together, have a plan. Now, this plan is called the Initial Action Plan, or the IAP. Now, the Initial Action Plan is essentially a set of objectives that the team of Special Forces soldiers, whether it's the SAS or the SBS, which is the Special Boat Service, what they do is they are given by their commanders a set objective. Now, it could be one objective, it could be two objectives. Now, the most famous one is the 1980 Iranian Embassy siege in London. Now, the SAS were called in very early after the alert went out, and as they were driving from their base in Hereford, which is just on the border of England and Wales, they were already being given their IAP, their Initial Action Plan. Now, it's pretty obvious what that was going to be, which was to, in the event that the terrorists started killing the hostages, the SAS were to go in and storm the building and try and save as many lives as they possibly could. Now, that was the IAP, the Initial Action Plan. Now, the whole siege took place over 6 days. Over those 6 days, the SAS were being given more and more information. That Initial Action Plan was changing all the time, in some cases by the hour, because they were getting more information. And eventually, when the time came and the government said, go in.
May 5th, 1980, the day they stormed the Iranian Embassy in London, ending a 6-day siege. Watched around the world, these pictures have become synonymous with the regiment, until then widely unknown.
Then they were not using that Initial Action Plan, although they still had the same objectives. The planning underneath all that was changing. Because it had to change, they were getting more and more information all the time. And this is the key part to when you're doing your weekly plan. You do not have all the information to hand, but you do know what your objectives can be. One of the things that I always recommend to my clients and also to anybody who actually follows me is start your weekly plan on paper. Create yourself a grid. And the grid starts with your core work. This is the work that you are employed to do, the work that you basically have to do every day or every week. Then on the second next to that, you have your projects and issues. These are the things that you need or want to get moving forward or resolving that week. Underneath that, on the bottom left, is your personal, anything that you want to do. Now, when it comes to personal, just to give you a simple example, most people will say, I want to exercise every day that week. Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. What you want to be doing is setting yourself a realistic objective. I work on minimums. So I have a minimum of exercising 4 times that week. That gives me 3 days out of 7 where, for whatever reason, if I can't exercise, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Now, I would love to exercise 5 or 6 times in the week, but I'm also a realist. I know that things will get in the way. But if I can do my 4, I've met my objective. And then on the bottom right, we have the radar. Now, the radar is just for those things that you have nothing specific to do. You just either are waiting for something or you just need to be aware of something. Now, it's a simple grid, and I always recommend that people start this on paper. The reason being is your brain works better on paper than it does digitally, at least initially. I tend to think of it like paper is for planning and digital is for output. That way I can separate the two. I can slow down and think and plan. And then when I need to actually put something out there, like output, I can go onto the computer system and I can type and get it out. That's about speed, if you like. Now, if you want to learn more about that system, I have just created a brand new course called the Hybrid Productivity Course, which will show you step by step how to do that. Also, it will show you how to bring in the daily planning system and how to use this unique day book that you create in your own style, in your own way. It's a superb system. Anyway, this video isn't about that course. But if you want to learn more about that course, details are below. Anyway, moving on. So what we're doing here is we're setting out on paper the objectives for the week. What is it that you want to get accomplished? Now, that's all you can do when you're doing a weekly planning system. That is your initial action plan. You've got it there, it's in front of you, and you can see what your objectives are. Now, of course, when you're doing your weekly plan and you open up your calendar, you can see all your pre-arranged appointments. So that's kind of giving you structure in the week. If you've got an important report that really must be finished and the deadline date is Friday, then you're going to have to find a way of blocking time out in the week. The weekly planning time is the time to do that because you're kind of getting ahead, you're blocking your calendar, and if you're doing your weekly planning at the end of the week or early Saturday morning, one of the great things is nobody else is adding to your calendar. It's a moment in time where everything pauses and you can structure your week. Now, you've always got the option of removing that time block if you absolutely must because an emergency comes up. Again, you don't know what's going to happen once the week begins. But if you can get in there and pre-protect that time and say, I am going to stick to that, I am going to make sure that I finish that report on that time that I've allocated, then you're in with a shout of meeting that deadline with no stress or without any overwhelm. But as I say, the important thing to remember is nobody is ever perfect. You're not going to be able to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, stick your head in a bowl of ice cubes. You're not going to be able to do 100 press-ups out on your veranda. I've seen the video. You're not going to be able to do a 4-hour morning routine every single day. You are human. But what we can do is have a set of objectives that we want to accomplish that week and keep our eye on that objective or those objectives. This is one of the reasons why when I returned to pen and paper and I created my day book, what I found was I can stay focused on the things that are important that week, no matter what distractions are coming at me. And of course, if I'm on a business trip, which I will be on one day next week, I'm not going to start scheduling things in there. And when I'm doing my weekly plan, I can see that and I can account for that, and I can say, okay, I'm not going to exercise for 2 days around that because I'm on a conference and I'm going to be meeting people and having dinners. I'm not going to try and squeeze in a 30-minute That's just pressure and stress I don't need, because the exercise is something that I'm just doing constantly. It's like it's just a big part of my life. There's going to be days when I cannot do it, and that's fine. I put my hand up and say, it's not going to happen that day. And it's like you give yourself permission not to do it. So strongly recommend that you've got to add a little bit of caution when you're watching some of these self-help people. I mean, they're doing a brilliant job. They've got some great ideas, but just remember that as a human being, you're not ever going to hit it 100% of the time. Life gets in the way. And that's perfectly okay. That's what makes life so wonderful, because it's so unpredictable. But you can influence life by setting objectives. And then when you get to the next week and you do your weekly plan again, because you're good people, you can look back first and say, how did I do against my objectives? Now, I would say that I try to exercise at least 4 times a week, and I hit that usually about 80% of the time. Sometimes it's less, in that case I have to look at that and say, okay, what went wrong? But if I can hit 80% plus on my objectives, whether it's exercise, whether it's work related, whatever it is, that's been a good week, because I accept that you're never going to be 100%. You're human. That's part of the wonderful reasons why we're human. Things get in the way, and we just have to deal with those and then readjust our plan. But as I say, this is something that really, I can see people getting themselves so frustrated. They get upset with themselves. They beat themselves up. Don't. It's just normal part of being human. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. And that is perfectly okay, because it means that you're a human being. Now, if you want to learn more about my hybrid productivity course, then I did a video last week which you can see some of it in action, and you can see if it would work for you. I love this hybrid productivity system because you can put your style, your image into your notebooks. You can animate them, you can colorize them, you can do whatever you like with them and just have it in the way that works for you. Anyway, if you want to learn more about that, then last week's video does go into a little bit of detail of how you can set up your very own hybrid productivity course.